Today I want to talk about the strong wrist wraps from Mark Bell and howmuchyoubench.net, and this is actually a very tough video to do because what the hell can you say about wrist wraps that hasn't already been said and done before? I mean, there hasn't been any revolution in wrist wrap technology that's going to really blow the world away. At the end of the day, it's just talking about material, thumb loops, Velcro, and durability perhaps. And I've really found at the end of the day what really matters is that own personal opinion as well as your own personal budget, as well as does that wrist wrap come in enough colors to match your current gym gear? That's what's really important, let's be honest. Not to mention, speaking of being honest, it's tough to do any kind of video review on YouTube because what's a real opinion and what's a paid opinion? You know, what's incentivized, what's sponsored by companies in order for you to sell or say certain things, and it really kind of blurs the line between full review and product placement. And even though I'm really good friends with the guys over at Super Training, I can honestly say they don't give a shit about my opinion, so they let me say whatever I want to say, and I can totally respect that. At the end of the day, I really try to endorse the people and products I like and not let those products endorse me. I will also say I've been on record as saying that the Gangsta Wraps are my favorite wraps of all time, and because again these reviews are tough to do on wrist wraps, I'm going to do some comparison to those wraps as those are my preferred version. So to kind of give you some context, if you want to see those older videos, I'll link those in the description box below. But the strong wraps themselves are actually a part of a family of wraps that you can get on howmuchyoubench.net. They really vary between stiffness levels, so they have a level 1, which isn't very stiff, all the way up to a level 4, which is their most stiff wrap, and that's where the strong wraps come into play. They are the stiffest wraps that you can buy from the company, and they are actually made from the same material that their knee wraps are made out of, to give you some idea. And for context, if you've used Gangsta Wraps before, Gangsta Wraps are labeled a level 3, and again, these strong ones are a level 4. So the Gangsta Wraps, while my favorite, are still stiff. They're not the stiffest available any longer. You can also get different levels of length with these strong wraps. They come in length sizes of 30 inches, 38 inches, and 42 inches. One of the things I really want to mention is if you plan on competing with them, one thing to note is the fact that they are not IPF approved, which doesn't matter to some, but even if you don't compete in the IPF, you still want to check your federation's rule book, as in most cases, I think 42 inches will exceed the maximum limit of length for wrist wraps. So definitely take that into consideration. Other things to note, they do have the connected thumb loop that all the other Slingshot and howmuchyoubench.net products has, which I really like. I find this is the better way to do things. When you're talking about getting a good wrap around your thumb without pulling or putting you in an awkward position, I think this is the way to go. And if a wrap has this, I will definitely always tend to lean towards that rather than a traditional thumb loop. The material here is also very stiff, and one of the things that I found is I'm not usually a big fan of very stiff or very hard wraps. That's one of the reasons I liked the Gangsters in the past, because they had a lot of stretch and give to them. And because of that reason with the Gangsta Wraps, I actually liked a longer wrap here because that would allow me to get as stiff a wrap as I would need and actually go around several times in order to get that wrap stiff. With these strong wraps, because the material is so stiff on them already, I actually prefer the shorter version or the 30-inch version here because I find that anything more is going to be a pain and a bit tedious. They do not have much give to them. And I find that I can get a very stiff wrap with a shorter length here. Now, as far as the price point goes, they retail for $50, which is $5 more than the Gangsta Wraps. So it really comes down to your own personal preference in this regard. I've actually found the material they use holds up better than the Gangsta Wraps in time. There's not as much fraying on the actual material themselves, which is kind of a given for any wrist wrap when you're talking about putting Velcro onto other material. You will always get that fraying, but these have held up extremely well. However, that being said, at the end of the day, I do still prefer my Gangsta Wraps overall. I find them more comfortable, especially when you're talking about training. And of course, because I compete in the USAPL, which is an IPF affiliate, these other strong wraps wouldn't be approved outside of a local meet. I do think the Gangsta Wraps are better overall in terms of my own preferences. But if you're looking to get the stiffest wrap you can, the best wrap you can, you might want to actually look into the strong version of them. I think you'll be satisfied any way you go. If you guys have any specific questions on these wraps, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to get to them when I can. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.